I would actually make a bet with any one of you that I am the biggest failure in this room. I would bet you that I have failed more than anybody else in this room. And it started at a very, very young age. I mean, I can remember I was 10 years old. I got a phone call from the minister at our family church, and he said, "Hey, Carl, this is Gordon. You know, I was in third grade, I guess it was, or fourth grade." He said, "We'd like you to do the tech every Sunday for church, where you put the mics up and the sound and do all that stuff." And I was like, "Sure, that'll be easy." And he said, "No, it won't be easy." And he was right. I mean, from cables falling out and batteries dying and feedback in the middle of the Sunday service, and there was one guy that would come up, and no matter how good I thought I was doing, he'd always say, "It's too loud." And if anybody sees Rick Brown, please tell him that I've made a nice little career out of that input. But, you know, so that was a little bit of a failure, but I managed to work my way through it. And then, and actually, I had an experience in 7th grade where I went out for, I've told you my basketball story. In 7th grade, I went out for basketball, and I was actually I thought I was actually a pretty good basketball player. My Uncle Kenny taught me how to shoot, dribble, and it was kind of fast and everything. This is going to be a no-brainer. So I tried out and got cut the first day. And I thought about it, and the next day I went into Mr. Boylan's office and I said, "You know, thanks for letting me try out. I'm just wondering, what can I work on so that next year maybe I could make the team?" And he gave me a couple tips, maybe learn how to shoot, maybe learn how to dribble, get some speed. And I said, "All right, I'm going to start working on that." And the next day he called me into his office and he said, "You know what, I've decided I want you on the team. Because I think you might be able to make something and help inspire the guys." And I was like, "Okay, great, awesome." And then, of course, we proceeded to lose 17 games in a row, 2 seasons in a row. Failure. And I continued my epic track record. In my high school, actually had, right before I started the high school, they were one of the first schools in the state, if not the country, to install a complete color TV studio. And because of my background in the church with all that technology, I sort of got recognized as the guy who knew how to plug mics in and fix when batteries go dead and all that kind of stuff. So very early, I got involved in this color TV studio in my high school. And it turned out that the state of Pennsylvania was so impressed with what the color studio was turning out that they gave us this assignment. They wanted us to do an inspirational video for students to get more involved in extracurricular things, and sports, and band, and all that kind of stuff. And my teacher, Mr. Cardellino, said, "Carl, I want you to produce this thing." And I was like, "Oh my God, this is the most fantastic thing. What a great project." So I got to work on it. I'm shooting things and doing interviews, and we're creating music for it. And we had this edit base, and I was editing and learning how to work all that stuff. And I worked tirelessly for 2 months to get this thing done. I mean, literally, my parents, I don't know if you remember this, my parents said, because my grades were slipping, they said, "You know, what's the deal here? You're sort of out of whack." And I was like, "No, I'm on this project, so I'll try to keep up with that stuff." But I got this really cool project for the state of Pennsylvania Board of Education. So I'm working on it, it's coming along really well, and actually, it was so exciting to me, and I was so focused on it, that my teacher, with my parents' permission, would actually, when he would leave at the end of the day, would actually lock me in the studio. There was a bathroom in there, but he would lock me in. Nobody in the school knew. And there was a couch, so I would work all night, and then finally when I couldn't do it anymore, I'd sleep, and the janitor would come in, and he'd wake me up and say, "All right, Carl, you gotta go have breakfast," and I'd come back in. And that went on for about a week. Got this thing done. I don't know if you remember 3/4-inch videotape, and got it done, popped it out, my masterpiece, my 15-minute masterpiece. And I went in, I put it on my teacher's desk. His desk was always a mess, Mr. Cardellino. He couldn't, you know, he was like an Einstein kind of guy. Put it there. Went out, went to my classes, going about my day, and I get paged on the school sound system. "Carl Deckler, please report to the TV studio." Like, he must have seen my video. "Gonna check out this positive feedback." And I walk into his office, and the guy is ashen white. Like,
I'm like, well, Mr. Carlino, what's the deal? And he's on the sofa with where I'm napping. He's like, you have to sit down. I go, oh no. What happened there? And he goes, you left that tape on my desk, right? And I was like, yeah. He goes, you left it by all the other blank cassettes, right? And I was like, oh. He said, I put it in and taped a school assembly on the master. I had 2 days until I was supposed to turn this into the state. I was like, oh, failure.
So I spent the next 48 hours without sleep, with a little bit of food, and I cut the hell out of that thing. I remembered what I had. I had the raw material, and I just had to buckle down and cut it, and it turned out actually better than the original. We turned it into the state. We won an award. It was really exciting, really awesome. Okay? So I had this thing, plush disaster out of the jaws of disaster. And then, I was talking to my dad about, where things were going to go for me, what was next, and he was like, I really want you to do Up With People. My sister had gone, anybody hear of Up With People? Okay, so my sister did that. She toured around, she became bilingual, Spanish and everything, and it was a pretty cool thing. So he really wanted me to do that, and I really wanted to go to college. And I just wanted to get started with my career. But he really wanted me to do Up With People. But I really wanted to go to college. But no, he really wanted me to do Up With People. But now, Dad, I really want to go to college. Failure, I went to college. Well, actually, I had to start applying. So I started to apply to schools. I applied to Boston College, or Boston University. I applied to Boston University. Boston College. Emerson, Syracuse, rejected. Remember I said my grade slipped? Well, that also meant my SATs were pretty lame. I think I got points for signing my name. And so I got rejected from these schools. But the one I really wanted to get into, the one with the best poster, with the prettiest girl in the hallway at school, was Ithaca College. So I was like, maybe I'll get in there. So I applied to Ithaca, rejected. But I really wanted to go, so I called up the dean's office and I said, hey, I'd like to tour the campus if that would be okay. A friend of mine wanted to go to Cornell, so we drove up there together, and they said, sure, anybody can tour the campus. So we went, we were touring the campuses, and we got to the School of Communications, and I asked the secretary, could I meet with the dean, please? And they're like, well, he's not in right now. And I was like, well, how long till he'll be in? She said, about a half hour. I said, okay, so I kept touring, and I went back, half hour, and I got a meeting with the dean. And I said, I just need 10 minutes. So I went in there, and I had a copy of my award-winning videotape, and I said, hey, look, you guys turned me down. You said I was not Ithaca material. But let me tell you something. You're going to have a lot of people come in here who are going to have great grades. They succeeded at the SATs. They're going to show you that they're going to be great students. I said, I'm going to do something more than be a great student. I don't know what kind of grades I'm going to get here, but you're not going to find somebody that works harder. And then after the education, which is what I think you want, I'm going to work to be the greatest alum that this school has ever had. I'm going to try to make you guys proud of the education that I get. And I'm telling you right now that the output that I will show you will be worth giving me this chance to come to your school. He looked at me kind of cross-eyed, kind of like I was an alien, kind of the same way that Mr. Boylan in 7th grade basketball looked at me. And he said, well, look, I have a meeting now. Why don't you come back in a couple of hours, go grab lunch, and then we'll talk. So I don't know if you remember this, but this is 82 or so. This is before they raised the drinking age in New York from 18 to 21 like it was in Pennsylvania. So my friend and I had our first 3-beer lunch legally there in Ithaca, and we sort of stumbled our way back to campus. And I went into his office, tried to gather myself, and he said, Carl, you're accepted to Ithaca. Will you join us? And I was like, absolutely. So I got accepted to Ithaca, and I made Dean's List. I got good grades, but more importantly, I got the tools that would help me do what this is now, what we're creating now. And even more exciting, we funded a program that the School of Communications is doing right now so that the students are creating a self-esteem, body image, and fitness program to help teenage girls feel good about themselves. Started with a lot of failure. And then I got out of school, you know, to be a hot shot broadcaster, and I got in the infomercial business. Sorry, Dad. And I produced some of the worst infomercials in history, stuff I'm not proud of, I'm not going to name. Failure after failure after failure. And somehow, with all those failures that were mounting up, the CEO of that company said, all right, we're going to move you from that, we're going to send you over to Europe, where we want you to open up our infomercial business in the UK and into Europe. So I went over there, and I didn't know anything about supply chain management. I was a communications guy that used to run sound in church. And I'm dealing with what they call VAT taxes and transfer taxes and all this stuff. And the Europe launch was pretty much a flop, a total failure. So they brought me back, and they put me in charge of the media department. I was buying $2 million or $1.5 million of media a week, and the company was doing worse and worse and worse, and it ended up going bankrupt. Total failure. But somehow I got recognized by these guys as having a skill set. I got another job in the infomercial business, got a little bit of traction. 8-minute abs happened. That was a nice hit for me. And then a group of investors, shortcutting the story a little bit, but a group of investors says, this guy's in a lot of demand in the infomercial business, and they put up $500,000 for John and I to start this company, and I began my next phase of failure. And my next phase of failure, now there's mixed with some successes in there. We had great abs guaranteed, thin thighs guaranteed, Power 90, Slim and 6, but that was surrounded with other products which were just as good, really fantastic products, but we couldn't figure out how to market them. Project U, couldn't figure out how to market that thing. Shaun T's Rockin' Body, couldn't figure out how to market that thing. Rev Ab, Chalene Extreme. You know, we just struggled. And in the midst of this, then we started to test this new thing, P90X. And at the same time, we got this idea for a network marketing business to maybe replace this failure in network marketing that we had tried. This idea I had, we called it My Beachbody. That's what the club used to be called. And in My Beachbody, whenever you referred somebody in, you would make 5% of whatever they bought as My Beachbody. It was not going anywhere, it wasn't growing. So we had this other idea, let's replace that with this thing called $1 Million Body, the $1 Million Body game. And we got started, we were going to launch that thing on January 1st, 2007. It's going to be awesome, it's going to be ready. I convinced 41 people. We're going to have this nailed, and it launched sometime in April. Total failure. And even then, we couldn't get out of our own way. You could barely get an order in. We lost orders, stuff showed up late, volume was late, sometimes we missed check runs. It was just about as bad a launch. We were going to be another failed network marketing business, but somehow we attracted people to the mission who felt like it was worth hanging around, and we got better. And we launched Shakeology, and about the same time, P90X had been through something 22, 23 different versions of that show to make it work. And that becomes one of the fastest growing, if not biggest brands in fitness between 2007 and 2011. And Shakeology, which I can remember the first presentation of Shakeology, I got to look Mr. Boylan and the Dean of the Communications like, really? Over $4 a serving for a shake? No, this is a special one. This is one for people like me that don't like vegetables, that need some way to get some health inside their body. And maybe there's enough of us that care about nutrition that if it just tasted like chocolate, we'd drink it. And it turned out that actually worked. Failure after failure, though. It took failure, and if you tried some of the early samples of Shakeology, man, you know on Saturday Night Live they do spit takes, you know? That's the way it was, man. We had a guy whose full-time job was like, new Shakeology flavor, huh? Thanks, Pedro. But, you know, eventually we got it. And then there were some things about the formula that we wanted to change. We were so excited because people love this because it's a health shake. Let's put it out there. We're going to make this thing happen. Put it out there. Give them, they'll love it. You guys spit that thing out and you're like, oh no. That was going to be a really big business. Remember that? But you were patient with us, and in a matter of 2.5 months, we got that flavor turned around, actually substituted some of the fructose out of there, and you embraced the reformulation. And now, as I mentioned earlier, we're up to 250,000 people drink that thing every single day. Failure. It's unbelievable. You know what? It kind of makes sense. You know, all this failure, and I think one of the reasons that it is so meaningful to me, you know, and people say, Carl, you're so humble, and you're just a regular guy. That's because when I look at this, and you guys ask me, you know, we take these photos and you're like, oh my God, you must look at what you've created and what this has become, and you must be so proud. You got to understand, I don't see this incredible success. I see this incredible failure that has turned into something so beautiful, but I can't see it separate from what it takes to get here. And I got to tell you, every single day I wake up, there's something that I'm failing at right now. I mean, hey, let's look at reality. Body Beast, we haven't been able to make that thing work out. Guess what happened last weekend? And what I think is the 15th test of that show, we got traction. You're going to see Body Beast on TV. By the way, you want to have a good time? Say to Sagi, the biggest, most massive, scary guy you'll ever see, say, hey, I hear your show's going to turn out. Yeah, I know. They said it might roll out. He's such a sweetie. Such a sweet guy.
Yeah. Beast, I'm a beauty.
I'll hold you, Sagi. Well, look, I'm surrounded by, you know, I'm surrounded by failure, and what it comes down to is getting, I think one of the reasons I'm like this, my mom sent me an email last week. She's like, hey, you need to start taking it easy a little bit. I can tell you're a little bit stressed, and your communication, and the fact that I haven't spoken to you in 7 months. And I've come to realize that I'm actually comfortable with the discomfort. When we talk about never giving up, I think that's what it comes down to. You got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I'm surrounded by people who taught me that. I'm lucky enough to have family here. My stepmom, Sharon, she's incredible voice. If you heard her sing, it's like operatic. It's like incredible. And she auditions constantly, and she is constantly rejected. But she deals with it. I mean, I've known you 30 years. I think we've known each other, and she just rejection after rejection. And then sometimes she gets the part and she performs, and people are blown away at what she has done. She fails constantly, and because of that, she succeeds constantly. My Uncle Kenny, who I'm so lucky to have here, if you ever think I have a measure of showmanship or craziness about it, blame him. Blame him. But I watched this guy, one of the greatest senses of humor I've ever come across, but I watched this guy build this business with such pride in these cars. They look like NASCARs, in that sort of automotive hydraulic lift business. Is that that's kind of what it is. And he had this big shop and employees, and he overbuilt it. Too much overhead, and then when anything went sideways, you got more people, and you don't know what this guy's doing or that guy's doing, and maybe some guys maybe skimming a little bit on his of that, and the thing cratered on him. Failure. So he slimmed it down, he moved it into his house, and he kept working on it. And he's got one of the most successful, ongoing followings of loyal customers that you could ever want. He's one of the best salesmen I have ever met. He inspires me every time I talk to him. Failure, 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 unbelievable success. My mom, she's done everything right. I don't know what to do. No, actually, she had an interior design business that was the envy of the interior design industry because she would teach interior designers how to do workshops, and she would have people come together, and they'd go from house to house and decorate a room, and it was really a great business. But she looked at it, and she was like, I'm teaching everybody how to design, but